One of the most overlooked practices for long-term health is also among the simplest. It begins with proper hydration. Drinking 16 to 20 ounces of filtered water, either cold or at room temperature, immediately after waking up can play an important role in supporting the body's internal systems. This should happen before coffee, before breakfast, and before checking a phone. The reason becomes especially important with age. After age 55, a process known as interoceptive thirst sensitivity begins to decline. In simple terms, the brain becomes less effective at recognizing thirst signals. Research from the University of Barcelona in 2019 reported that adults older than 60 often function at 8 to 12% below ideal cellular hydration levels without realizing it. Why does this matter in relation to cancer? The lymphatic system serves as the body's waste removal network. It gathers cellular debris and damaged DNA fragments. This system depends heavily on water to function efficiently. When dehydration occurs, that process slows. Cellular waste can build up. Inflammation increases. Scientists now recognize chronic low-grade inflammation as a major contributor to cancer development, particularly colorectal, bladder, and kidney cancers. The Harvard Nurses' Health Study revealed that women consuming more than 5 glasses of water per day experienced a 45% lower risk of colon cancer compared with those drinking 2 glasses or fewer. For older adults, hydration may also help support autophagy, the cellular housekeeping mechanism responsible for removing damaged components before they become problematic. Autophagy can be compared to a quality control inspector working inside each cell. Its role is to identify defective materials and remove them before mutations occur. Past age 65, the efficiency of this process decreases by approximately 30%. Evidence suggests that adequate hydration can help restore part of that lost function. A practical approach is simple. Keep a 20-ounce glass of filtered water beside the bed. As soon as you get up, drink the entire glass before consuming anything else. A squeeze of fresh lemon may be added if desired. Compounds found in lemon peel, including D-limonene, have been associated with anti-tumor properties. The benefits become even greater when hydration is combined with movement. 10 minutes of light activity, even walking around the house, can stimulate lymphatic circulation. Research from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden indicates that this combination may enhance cellular cleansing activity by as much as 40%. Hydration creates the foundation. The next layer involves what is consumed during the first meals of the day. Among the most extensively studied foods for cancer prevention are naturally fermented products. These foods have been part of traditional diets in some of the world's longest-living populations for thousands of years. Today, more than 1,200 peer-reviewed studies have examined their relationship with cancer prevention. Examples include plain yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and miso. In 2021, researchers at Stanford University School of Medicine published a major study in the journal Cell. Adults following diets rich in both fiber and fermented foods demonstrated significantly greater microbiome diversity. They also experienced measurable reductions in 19 separate inflammatory proteins, several of which are linked to cancer progression. This becomes particularly significant after age 50. Once people reach 60, intestinal permeability tends to increase. The lining of the gut becomes more porous, a condition often referred to as leaky gut. As permeability rises, bacterial toxins known as lipopolysaccharides can enter the bloodstream. This may trigger widespread inflammation throughout the body, creating conditions that can support the growth of precancerous cells. One patient, Margaret, age 67, from Asheville, North Carolina, presented with persistently elevated inflammatory markers, ongoing fatigue, and a strong family history of colorectal cancer. Her overall diet was considered healthy, yet fermented foods were completely absent. 2 servings were introduced each day. She consumed kefir in the morning and a small portion of sauerkraut with lunch. After 90 days, her C-reactive protein levels, a key marker of inflammation, had fallen by 38%. According to her gastroenterologist, the improvement was striking. Margaret later reported that she had not felt that well in years. The biological explanation involves compounds called short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate. Beneficial gut bacteria produce butyrate when they ferment dietary fiber. This substance sends signals to precancerous cells in the colon, instructing them to undergo apoptosis. In other words, it encourages potentially dangerous cells to die before they can create larger problems. Body rate functions much like a security guard, quietly removing troublemakers before any harm can occur. For fermented foods to deliver their full benefit, the goal is 1 to 2 servings each day. The products should be naturally fermented rather than pasteurized, since heat treatment destroys the living microorganisms that make these foods valuable. Labels should clearly state that live and active cultures are present. The effect becomes even stronger when fermented foods are combined with prebiotic-rich ingredients. Garlic, leeks, and slightly underripe bananas are excellent examples. Prebiotics nourish the beneficial microbes introduced through fermentation, greatly increasing their impact. Fermented foods provide substantial benefits. Yet the next habit takes the science to another level. One of the most familiar health recommendations is walking. However, the form of walking that produces the strongest protective effect is often misunderstood. Researchers now describe it as metabolic walking. The distinction between a casual stroll and metabolic walking may be far more significant than most people realize. The reason lies in how the body generates energy. Human cells rely primarily on glucose and oxygen as fuel sources. Cancer cells, because of a metabolic characteristic first identified by biochemist Otto Warburg in 1931, and later confirmed through hundreds of additional investigations, depend overwhelmingly on glucose. Their ability to use oxygen efficiently is limited. When a person performs sustained physical activity at a moderate intensity, enough to raise heart rate to between 55% and 70% of its maximum, two important processes occur simultaneously. Circulating glucose levels decline, reducing access to the fuel cancer cells prefer. At the same time, oxygen-rich blood reaches tissues throughout the body, creating conditions that are unfavorable for cancer cell survival. A 2020 meta-analysis conducted by the American Cancer Society examined information from 1.4 million adults. The findings showed that regular moderate exercise was linked to a 42% lower risk of colon cancer. Breast cancer risk declined by 38%. Lung cancer risk fell by 27%, even among individuals who had never smoked. Those results are remarkable for an intervention that requires no medication. The biological changes associated with aging make this especially important. After age 65, mitochondria, the energy-producing structures inside cells, can decline by as much as 35% in both quantity and performance. Scientists now recognize mitochondrial dysfunction as a major factor in aging and cancer progression. Consistent moderate walking is among the few strategies proven to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. In practical terms, it signals the body to generate new healthy mitochondria. It is similar to replacing an aging fleet of power stations with new ones throughout the body. Metabolic walking involves 30 to 45 minutes of uninterrupted movement at a pace that still allows conversation but makes singing somewhat difficult. The target is at least 5 days each week. Ideally, it should occur in the morning before the first substantial meal, since exercising in a fasted state enhances glucose depletion considerably. Consider Robert, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Portland, Oregon. 3 years earlier, he sought help after a cancer-related scare involving a precancerous polyp discovered and removed during a routine colonoscopy. The experience left him deeply concerned. At that time, he was not exercising. A structured morning walking routine was introduced, consisting of 35 minutes per session, 5 days per week. Dietary modifications were also included. At his follow-up colonoscopy 2 years later, the findings were clear. No new issues were detected. His oncologist specifically highlighted the major improvement in inflammatory markers and described the outcome as exceptional. Robert later explained that walking felt like medicine. The combination becomes even stronger when morning walking is paired with the hydration practice described earlier. Whenever possible, walking outdoors in natural morning light adds another advantage. Exposure to early sunlight helps regulate circadian rhythms, which influence immune surveillance, the body's system for identifying abnormal cells. Together, these effects are considerably more powerful than either strategy alone. The next habit centers on a unique group of compounds found in a specific family of vegetables. Among all nutrition-related cancer research involving adults over 50, this area contains some of the most compelling evidence. The compounds are known as sulforaphane. They occur in cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, and most abundantly in broccoli sprouts. Their significance becomes clear when examining the biology of aging. In 2018, researchers at Johns Hopkins University, where much of the foundational work on sulforaphane was conducted, reported that the compound activates a major genetic regulator called NRF2. NRF2 functions much like a chief security officer for DNA. Once activated, it switches on more than 200 protective genes at the same time. These genes support detoxification processes, antioxidant defenses, and the repair of damaged DNA before mutations can occur. The urgency increases with age. Between 50 and 70 years old, NRF2 activity falls by approximately 40%. As that decline progresses, DNA repair mechanisms become less effective. Sulforaphane helps reactivate that protective system. A landmark investigation from the University of Illinois found that regular intake of foods rich in sulforaphane was associated with a 52% reduction in bladder cancer risk. Prostate cancer incidence declined by 41%. Researchers also observed meaningful reductions in markers associated with breast and lung cancers. Another notable study from the Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center revealed that sulforaphane targets cancer stem cells. These cells are particularly concerning because conventional chemotherapy often fails to eliminate them. They are also believed to play a major role in cancer recurrence. Cancer stem cells can be compared to military commanders. Removing ordinary cells may weaken the threat, but if the commanders remain, the threat can rebuild. Sulforaphane specifically targets those commanders. There is, however, an important preparation detail that many people overlook. Sulforaphane does not exist in broccoli in its fully active form. It is produced through a chemical reaction that begins when the vegetable is chopped or chewed. That process activates an enzyme known as myrosinase. But there is a critical issue. When broccoli is heated beyond 140 degrees Fahrenheit, the enzyme myrosinase is destroyed. As a result, thoroughly cooked broccoli provides only a small amount of active sulforaphane. The most effective method is to chop or gently crush broccoli or broccoli sprouts, then allow them to rest for 40 minutes before eating or lightly steaming them. This waiting period gives the myrosinase reaction enough time to finish. After that, steaming should last no more than 3 to 4 minutes. Raw broccoli sprouts require no preparation through heat and can contain up to 50 times more sulforaphane per gram than mature broccoli florets. A practical target is 1/2 cup of raw broccoli sprouts each day, or 1 full cup of lightly prepared broccoli. There is also an important way to enhance the effect. Cruciferous vegetables can be combined with a small amount of raw mustard seed powder or raw radish. Both naturally contain active myrosinase. When added to cooked cruciferous vegetables, they help replace the enzyme lost during cooking and may increase sulforaphane bioavailability by as much as 4-fold, according to findings from the Institute of Food Research in Norwich. The second habit is highly significant. Yet, the most influential daily practice for cancer prevention after age 50 centers on something many people overlook. That habit is sleep. More specifically, it involves what researchers describe as oncological sleep architecture. This refers to the timing and quality of sleep that activates the body's strongest anti-cancer defenses. Evidence regarding the consequences of disrupting this system is striking. The process begins during deep slow-wave sleep, specifically stages 3 and 4. During these phases, the brain activates the glymphatic system. Researchers at the University of Rochester first described this waste removal network in 2013. Using cerebrospinal fluid, it clears toxic proteins and cellular debris from the brain and nervous system. It can be compared to an intensive cleaning cycle that operates only after daily activity has stopped. The connection to cancer extends far beyond brain health. During the same deep sleep stages, the body reaches its highest production of melatonin. Melatonin is not only a hormone associated with sleep, it is also among the most powerful antioxidants produced naturally by the body. A comprehensive review published in the journal Cancer Research in 2021 reported that melatonin directly suppresses tumor angiogenesis. In practical terms, it prevents tumors from creating the new blood vessels needed for continued growth. Melatonin also activates natural killer cells. These immune cells serve as the first line of defense against developing cancer by identifying and destroying abnormal cells before they become established. Aging introduces a major challenge. Between ages 40 and 70, melatonin production decreases by as much as 70%. Most adults older than 65 generate only minimal amounts during sleep. As a result, one of the body's most important anti-cancer systems operates at only a fraction of its potential. In 2019, the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified night shift work that repeatedly disrupts sleep architecture as a probable human carcinogen. It was not categorized merely as a risk factor. It was placed in the same category as certain pesticides and industrial chemicals. That classification illustrates the seriousness of chronic sleep disruption. Consider Eleanor, a 71-year-old retired nurse from Scottsdale, Arizona. She typically slept only 5 to 6 hours each night and woke repeatedly. Testing of her immune function revealed severely reduced natural killer cell activity. A structured sleep recalibration plan was introduced. Her bedtime was fixed at 10 p.m. each evening. The room was kept completely dark. Temperature was lowered to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. All screens were turned off 90 minutes before bed. At 8 p.m., she consumed a small serving of tart cherry juice because it contains natural melatonin precursors. Within 6 weeks, her sleep duration consistently reached 7.5 hours. At a 3-month follow-up evaluation, her natural killer cell count had increased by 47%. Her oncology team described the change as remarkable. Eleanor reported that she had not experienced such restorative sleep since her 40s. Research consistently points in the same direction. According to a 20-year cohort study from the University of California, San Diego, adults older than 60 who regularly sleep between 7 and 8.5 hours each night in cool, dark environments experience cancer mortality rates up to 48% lower than individuals sleeping fewer than 6 hours. This is not a minor influence. It functions as a master control system. To maximize sleep quality, several practices are essential. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. This includes weekends because circadian rhythms do not pause. Keep the sleeping environment completely dark. Even small amounts of light can suppress melatonin production. Maintain room temperatures between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Avoid eating during the 3 hours before bedtime, since digestion competes with the cellular repair processes that should take priority overnight. The final synergy comes from combining sleep optimization with morning sunlight exposure. Early daylight helps anchor circadian rhythms and directly supports greater melatonin production later in the evening. Together, these habits create biological conditions that make it more difficult for cancer to gain a foothold. The evidence presented throughout this discussion points to a clear conclusion. Prevention does not become irrelevant with age. Whether a person is 55 or 85, whether cancer has been a concern before or not, the body retains a significant ability to protect itself, repair damage, and regenerate when given the right conditions. Morning hydration, fermented foods, metabolic walking, sulforaphane-rich cruciferous vegetables, and restorative sleep are not complicated interventions. They are foundational conditions that support normal biological function. They require little cost. They do not depend on prescriptions. Each new day provides another opportunity to strengthen health, maintain independence, improve quality of life, and remain present for the people who matter most. CTA. If this information was valuable, share it with someone who may benefit from it. Continue learning, continue applying healthy habits, and take one practical step today toward better long-term health. Small daily actions, repeated consistently, can create meaningful change over time. Please leave your thoughts about this content in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.